Hello folks, this is Steve AB4L. You may hear the cars going by. Summer's coming. So nothing in this episode is a promotion nor is a recommendation. I'm just going to have a little bit of fun my way. Slashdot.org, one of my favorite tabs. News for nerds. I'm a nerd and an idiot running his mouth. So right now the first item is NetBSD. You know what that is, don't you? Don't you? Think of like Linux. Some people say Linux. NetBSD bans all AI-generated code. Is that permitted these days? I thought everybody had to swallow AI and barf it up. NetBSD committers are now banned from using any AI-generated code from ChatGPT, Copilot, or other AI tools. You see the logo over there? Oh, whatever this is, 36,765 raised of a goal of 50,000. It must be to pay for keeping their server going. NetBSD, now remember, I'm just an idiot. NetBSD commit guidelines. I won't keep you in the dark. NetBSD is a free and open source UNIX operating system, not Linux. UNIX was Bell Labs, AT&T. Yeah, way back then, I used to be on a computer running UNIX. Linux, UNIX, based on the Berkeley Software Distribution, BSD. UNIX, trademarked as UNIX, is a family of multitasking, multi-user computer operating systems that derive from the original AT&T UNIX, whose development started in 1969 at Bell Labs Research Center by Ken Thompson, Dennis Ritchie, and others. Dennis Ritchie was one of the inventors of the C programming language. Why did they do that? Well, one of the concepts about it was that you could have a core binary that was compiled C, which was a simple C compiler, and then you could have a computer, and you would start that binary on the computer, and then you would feed it all the text files and it could build the whole system from a little thing it was kind of a unique approach. I know that sounds like gibberish. The original C compiler hardly had any features, but it had enough that the first files that was fed to compile were added features for the C compiler. And when it had compiled enough added features and built them on the primitive machine you were on, then it would begin to actually compile the UNIX operating system, which required all of those special features in order to do it. Today, because of how easy it is to send gigabytes and terabytes, you just download the big lump finished. But that's not the way it was way back in 1969. Or even in the 1980s when I started with it. where IBM 360 mainframes core memory was all of 4 megabytes. So it's something, and NetBSD is not Linux. Linux is a Unix-like imitation built without looking at any of the original code. NetBSD is derived from the original licensed Unix code. The following commit guidelines. What does that mean? I'm a developer. I'm working on some bug fix or feature expansion or new feature for this software, and I'm going to commit it into, will you accept it and make it a part of NetBSD? Accept this fix or this new feature or this new nuance. The following commit guidelines define the project standards for making commits to the source tree. Those are the text files that get compiled into the finished binary, which is what runs on your computer. I like number 1, commit only code you are familiar with. That has a lot of meanings. If you decide that you just want to learn how to do coding and you go into BSD and you decide to pick on something and you're going to just change it for fun, they don't want you. They don't want you doing anything in there unless you've actually been working with that code for a long time so that you know all of the tricks about it. Because what you don't know might hurt everybody else. You stepping in and doing something stupid that a more seasoned person familiar with it wouldn't have done. If you're not sure if the code you plan to commit is acceptable, when taking code that was submitted with a problem report, ask a developer who is familiar with that part of the system for review. Go to somebody who's actually an expert about it and ask him to check you out, just to save trouble. We don't want to have to knock on your bedroom door at midnight and say naughty, naughty, naughty. If you're new to the project, check with your sponsor. What does that mean? GitHub, let's build from here. The world's leading AI-powered developer platform. Just sign up. I've done a lot of videos where they're mentioning somebody's GitHub where they've done some code and you just can go download it and use it. I run code on this computer to get things that's right off of GitHub. Bang, bang, bang. Anybody can go in there. Oh, and if you like my code, you can download it and fork it and make your improvements on it and re-upload it to GitHub under your name and say, ta-da, this is an improvement. You don't need anybody's approval or authority. If you're new to the project, check with your sponsor. We better know who you are. We better know who you are. And somebody is responsible for the leash on you. This is the first time I'm reading it. Do not commit, and this is what that get, do not commit tainted code to the repository. Now you heard what I just said about GitHub. Maybe I did it the wrong way. PYPI, I misspelled, .org project. Here's an example of somebody having written something in Python, and it's on the big repository in the sky called PYPI. PY is for Python, something. And this is where people put all kinds of code. And then people who write programs in Python say, I need a subroutine that can do like this. So I'll go in there and I'll search the projects and see if somebody's already done that so I don't have to waste my time reinventing the code. Well, I've done episodes where people are going, oh, you notice, see what version it is? It's version 0.1. Oh, that's so mature. I'm giving you a contrast. And this and GitHub have become a target of all those malware guys sneaking their bad code in to projects that are spelled almost the same as some of the most commonly used utility functions. And then you download the bad one because you weren't paying attention. And now your code starts spreading malware all over the user computers that were stupid enough to think that you offered them something great without checking. Nobody knows who you are sneaking in. I'm saying it this way for a reason. Check with your sponsor. We better know who you are, and somebody's responsible. Do not commit tainted code. This is what the actual thing was about. If you commit code that was not written by yourself, double check that the license on that code permits import into the NetBSD source repository. If you didn't actually write everything in the commit, oh, but I just made some additions to, it has to be on top of something that came from NetBSD, not from somewhere else. Because we already know the stuff in NetBSD is safe because of the way we do things. We don't want you bringing in strange stuff if you can restrain yourself. And permits free distribution. They don't want to get into the situation where you actually borrowed code that had a different kind of licensing, and then it gets out there and it gets popular, and then the people who actually own it notice that it's derived from their code and their license didn't permit you to do what you did, and now we'll sue the hell out of you and make you stop using it and crash the whole system. Check with the authors of the code, make sure that they were the sole author. Can you provide the genealogy of the code that you're submitting? Some of it is your new addition and some of it already exists. Whether you thought of it all yourself, you're the author, or you brought in an idea or some code from somewhere else, what's the genealogy of that? And I do mean genealogy. Remember I did an episode maybe a month ago where they traced the genealogy of a certain thing all the way back to pre-Christian times, to Greek philosophers, stuff written on papyrus, like that. Intellectual genealogy. Intellectual genealogy. Check with the authors of the code, make sure they were the sole author of that code, otherwise provide the genealogy, and verify with them that you did not copy any other code. Code generated by a large language, now we get to the core of it, AI. This is what's new. Code generated by a large language model or similar technology, such as GitHub, Microsoft's Copilot, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Facebook's Meta's Code Llama, is presumed to be tainted, presumed to be guilty, and must not be committed without prior written approval by core. Must not be committed without prior written approval by core. Anything that was not written by a human who is sentient and completely identified to us. No hiding behind fake names. Who are you? This is security. We're talking about security of the code base. And must not be committed without prior written approval by core. Now, did you see it earlier about your sponsor? This is what caught my eye. This word right here. What do you think it means? Who is the core of NetBSD? That's a Google search. It looks like the search engine understood what I asked. Who runs it? Who's the highest authority? Who are the gods up there on the mountain with the lightning bolts if you do the wrong thing? This is the first time I'm actually reading this now. If the NetBSD project were a large company, the NetBSD core group would be the technical management. No, it's not just dead weight. That's a comment about like IBM and Microsoft. No, it's not just dead weight. Rather, members of the core group set the direction and goals of the NetBSD project as a whole, promote people's interest in the NetBSD project and the system it produces, and consider the serious architectural questions that need to be addressed if the NetBSD project is going to keep producing a viable system. How can you kill something? By letting malware get into it, and then everybody dumps it because they can't trust you after that? I'm giving you an example. The NetBSD core group can be reached at, they've got an email address. The current NetBSD core group is, and there are their names. Previous NetBSD core group members Let's just pick on a previous one. This looks like, this is the first time I'm doing this. That looks like a unique name. Let's ask the search engine. Let's see who he is. Helsinki metropolitan area. That explains the spelling of his name. His company is called Fix Up Software Limited. Software architect / founder of Fix Up Software Limited, Helsinki, Finland. 18.5 years. Developer, the NetBSD Foundation, December 1999 to present. 24 years, 6 months. Bingo, we hit the right person. Do you notice how I did that? I could have picked a name that there's a million other people with it, or I can pick a name that I think is unique, and the search engine will probably zero in on it. So what it is that he's been involved kind of like, not from the beginning, but for a really long time. And he was one of the dictators that ran things on the side for them. But now he's busy with, let's find out what this is. We can almost guess what this business does. I'll assume it's safe to click on it. And there's his home page. He has a web server, and he's got an email address, and it's about 10 lines of code. I showed you in another video how a certain system went down, and then the page you could get to when you put in their URL was a simple HTML like this, and I said to you, the point of having something as simple as this is that the attackers have nothing to attack. There's no lever that they can sneak in through. So what he is he's a private contractor. He goes by his reputation, word of mouth. That's a guess. But he was one of the core people. Okay? And he's got a PhD. The design and implementation of any kernel and rump kernels. I have no idea what that is. He has a master's degree. Presumably he got these in. Okay, now here's one of his things, 2013, TCP/IP. IP is Internet Protocol. This is the mechanism by which the web pages arrive at your computer over the internet. TCP/IP stack attachment for the user space network interface card drivers provided by Intel DPDK allows a full networking stack to run out of the kernel. So what he said is he wrote something that sneaks around the way Microsoft is forbidding you to do it. That's my interpretation. So he's a pretty smart guy. That's why he's was one of the core people. One of the dictators. Can we pick another name? Shall we pick the Greek name? I haven't looked this up. You can tell it's Greek, right? Right? There's a web page and he is the secretary for NetBSD. Let's look at the home page of what this is. September 18th to 20th, 2024, DoubleTree by Hilton. Let's see what this is. Global leaders convene to counter new threats, review certification goals. International Cryptographic Module Conference 2024. Oh, that's right at my level. I think I know all that source code by heart. Cryptographic. Topics: embedded encryption in industry vertical applications. These people are involved in finding mechanisms to protect everybody from all the bad guys. That's a guess. We're just exploring what kind of people are the Greek gods of NetBSD. See, he's Greek. ICMC will build a decade of cybersecurity thought leadership as the industry faces widespread changes in emergent threats in commercial cryptography. Post-quantum algorithms, the new quantum computers, are going to be able to break all of the encryption systems unless they can design one that can't be broken by a quantum computer. You know what quantum computers are. You got one in the pantry, right? Or under your bed. Why don't you read the latest news from IBM about that? Post-quantum algorithms are finally here, and now the real work of implementing them. It's over my head. This is from 2009. Interview with Christos Zoulas. In September this year, I was born and raised in Greece, and I came to the United States to study when I was 17. This is when I first touched a computer keyboard, learned UNIX. See the connection to... While an undergrad at Cornell on a VAX 11 780, I've actually used the VAX 11, running 4.2 BSD, and that's what the Unix-like operating system was on the VAX from Digital, I forget what, the Digital Computer Corporation. I was, so he's an oldie. He's been at it a long time. He's one of the gods up on the, see, he's Greek. He said he came from Greece. I'm not making fun of him. Okay? And they're wagging their finger at everybody. Don't be. Do you remember how over a year ago, before the big AI thing exploded, I put up that episode about NC State Computer Science Department where they've been investigating what happens amongst their own graduate students when they're given a computer programming assignment and they have access to something that will write the code for them. You remember when I put that episode up way back? This is the same damn thing, but it's downstream quite far. Don't do what those even graduate students are doing, winking and cheating. If you didn't write it yourself, prove where it came from, and above all, prove that a bot didn't write it. Because we can't trust the bots. They don't tell us where they got it from. We don't know how much sneaky bad stuff the bad boys have been feeding to the bots for them to gobble up and incorporate, as though it's the real thing. That's what this is all about. What I just said there. That's what this is all about. Is it all directly human traceable that we could come and knock on your door and sit down and actually talk with you, and you could prove that you wrote the code and didn't use a bot? That's what this is all about. Protection at the basic level. All this AI stuff is great, but not here. We're going to be hearing more of this line of thought from more and more projects, believe me. This episode is not off topic. I was just looking here and I thought it was interesting. Steve A. before you, just an idiot running his mouth, saying see you in 73.